Minister raises concerns over the closure of SAS war crimes investigation. We're reading into this more from the BBC, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from the BBC with the headline that the Minister has raised concerns over the closure of the SAS war crimes investigation. So what is this about? Well, it's about the war in Afghanistan pretty much, guys. So let's read into it. So, Veterans Minister Johnny Mercer has raised serious concerns in government in 2019 over the decision to close the investigation into the UK Special Forces. The BBC understands that Mr Mercer wrote to the then Defence Secretary Ben Wallace to warn against the closures. The Veterans Minister, a former British Army officer, was privately concerned that there were credible war crime allegations against the British forces. When the closure was later announced, Mr Mercer publicly backed the decision. The investigation, known as Operation Northmoor, had set out in 2014 to investigate a total of 675 allegations of wrongdoing by UK armed forces in Afghanistan. These include allegations that the nation's elite special forces regiment, the SAS, had murdered dozens of unarmed men, detainees and civilians during the raids. But Operation Northmoor, which was being conducted by the Royal Military Police, was shut down in 2019 with no charges. In 2022, the government announced a public inquiry into the allegations after the BBC One Panorama revealed that one SAS squadron had killed 54 people in suspicious circumstances in 1 month tour of Afghanistan. 54 in 1 month. Don't know about you, but this feels wrong. This I'm really torn on this, guys. This one's a real torn Warner, because my feelings is that if innocent Afghans lost their lives at the hands of these British forces, then they need to be held accountable for them. But at the same time, they have it's knowing whether what they did was intentional or not. And the thing is, you don't actually know. You don't actually know if they're intentional or not. There's no way to prove it. And the thing is, we don't really want to put British armed forces in a situation where they're actually innocent but they're held accountable. Like, the thing is that we don't know, unless you are watching this and you are a veteran, we don't know what it's like to be a soldier. We don't know what it's like for them to have to go through. Now, if they have orders to do something, they have to do it, whether they like it or not. If they are ordered to shoot an innocent civilian, they have to follow that order without question. Now, I'm not saying that they were ordered to do that, but there has to be. I do think there needs to be questions, but I'm torn very much about this because it's not right that military personnel who are carrying out their duties whether you like it or not. This is a question of, I'm trying to find the right balance here, guys, because obviously, hand on my heart, you guys know that I don't in any way, I'm not like a full-blown national British person, like I'm waving the flag or anything like that. But I also know that innocent people have died over there, and there needs to be some kind of accountability. But should that accountability come at the expense of British forces fulfilling their duties? And I'm very much torn on that. The decision to wind down and then close Operation Northmoor with no charges causes condensation among some members of the government and civil servants. The BBC understands that Mr Mercer, who served as an army officer in Afghanistan, had worked alongside UK special forces there Was concerned SAS units may have broken the law during operations, shooting dead unarmed people and planted weapons beside their bodies to justify the killings. There is no suggestion that Mr Mercer had been a direct witness or had first-hand knowledge of war crimes. I'm going to read this bit again, guys. So the BBC had understood that Mr Mercer, who served as an army officer in Afghanistan, had worked alongside UK Special Forces there, and was concerned that SAS units may have broken the law during operations, shooting dead unarmed people and planted weapons beside their bodies to justify the killings. Now, this is a very, very serious allegation. My question is, why would they do this? Why would they do this is the question I would put. What's the reason that you would shoot unarmed civilians? I mean, these are British soldiers we're talking about here. That's the thing. The Veterans Minister warned colleagues that the government could suffer more reputational damage in the long run if it did not seriously investigate alleged British war crimes and prosecute if necessary. An internal email disclosed part of the subsequent legal case against the Ministry of Defence and suggests that Mr Mercer believed the government should publicly acknowledge that things went wrong on such operations in Afghanistan. They have to admit that there were mistakes were made in Afghanistan. There's no way they can say it was picture perfect. No way. That I do agree with. In an email, the deputy head of the MOD's legal department, writing in late 2019, recounts disillusioning the Veterans Minister that such a statement should be made on the basis that it could prejudge a review of Operation Northmoor that was being considered by a High Court judge. As a serving government minister, Mr Mercer publicly backed the decision to close the Operation Northmoor in a similar investigation into operations in Iraq, known as IHAT. The closure of both investigations followed allegations that a lawyer who had taken more than 1,000 cases to the IHAT had paid local intermediates in Iraq to find claimants. Yeah, that was it felt a bit cheesy, a bit of a scam to try and just rip money out of British soldiers. And I think that whole ordeal that happened in Iraq, I think that kind of forced the government to be more protective of legal cases against their soldiers. Because some of those cases, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, some of those cases were fake, with the intention of basically trying to rip money off the taxpayer. Flawed investigations. So Mr Mercer told the Sunday Telegraph that the closure of Northmoor was another significant moment as we retake ground cited over the years to those who seek to rewrite history and line their own pockets with no regard at all for the damage that it had done for some of our nation's finest people. Speaking during a debate in Parliament a few months earlier, he told the House of Commons that the allegations that our armed forces operated so-called death squads in Afghanistan was simply not true. Okay, so he stated they're not true. Speaking more broadly about UK operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, in the same parliamentary debate, Mr Mercer said he was a matter of deep personal regret that the original RMT investigations were flawed and that opportunities to hold those responsible to account may now have been lost. Just by the way, the part where he said simply not true, I'm not saying it in the means of, okay, he's right. We don't know that for sure, guys. For this, I unreservedly apologise to those who have suffered the treatment at the hands of UK forces, and that was simply unacceptable, he said. When approached for comment, Mr Mercer told the BBC, given the ongoing independent inquiry related to Afghanistan, it would be inappropriate to comment on the matter. Operation Northmoor has faced criticisms in the years since it was closed over an apparent failure to interview key witnesses or secure vital evidence relating to allegations of extrajudicial killings. If you hear a dog in the background, I do apologise. Officers from the Royal Military Police, which was responsible for the investigation, told Panorama that they were blocked by senior military figures from interviewing Special Forces officers and accessing forensic evidence. They said Operation Northmoor was closed before military police could complete their investigation. An MOD spokesperson told that the BBC was not appropriate for them to comment on allegations which may fall into the scope of a public inquiry. Public inquiry hearing will begin evidence on Monday. By the time you guys read this, it will already started. This is a dangerous one, guys, and one we will certainly be keeping an eye on for sure. So what's my initial thoughts? Well, as I kind of said, I am a bit torn. One part of me is that, you know, are they, if they've made mistakes, they need to be held accountable for those mistakes, because that's really, really important. You know, there needs to be justice for the innocents for the innocent people in Afghanistan. But at the same time, we have to protect our British forces as well. So it's a catch-22 situation. That's how I kind of see it, guys. Now, I'm not in any way defending what the British soldiers may have alleged to have done in there. I'm not defending that in any way, shape, or form. However, I also understand the need of protecting them as well. Now, if they were ordered to do something that they shouldn't have done, and they followed that order, who is the actual responsible? Is it the soldier that did it, or is it the officer who gave them the order? That is the question I put to you, and the answer will of course be the officer who gave them the order. It's a very sensitive one, I know. It's not an easy one to talk about, but it is one that needs to be highlighted. And justice should be brought to those who have suffered at the hands of others. But when we're talking about agents, soldiers, it gets the line of justice gets very grey, doesn't it? And that's the issue we have here, is that the line is starting to get grey. And I believe this is some, when we look back to the troubles over in Ireland, how many people had lost relatives, loved ones, and got no justice in that. Not just from British soldiers, but from the other side as well. So, there you go. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about the SAS war crimes investigations? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know down in the comment section below. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to catch you all very, very soon.